Welcome to Dodgers Daily. I'm Casey Porter. I'm so glad that you decided to tune in. We have a great show for you today. Today we're going to talk all about spring training, the last couple of days, the highlights. And the highlights were, James Outman, he is in. James Outman was told that he's going to be on the 26-man roster to start the season. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about James Outman and him being on the 26-man to start the season. Ryan Pepiot was told that he was going to become the fifth starter while Tony Gonsolin is out. What do you think about that? Leave a comment about Ryan Pepiot becoming the fifth starter. We're going to talk all about that, all the action. Max Muncy had a home run. JD Martinez had a home run. Miguel Vargas, he got a hit as well. He is 8 for 25 since he has started swinging the bat. And there was some good prospect action as well. So I'm super excited about this show. But before we get into it, just a reminder, hey, if you like this video and if you like this kind of content, go ahead and click that like button, leave a comment, tell all your friends about Dodgers Daily, become a subscriber, and then once you subscribe, go ahead and click that notification bell. That way, every time Dodgers Daily releases a new video, you will be notified. You won't miss a thing, and Dodgers Daily can keep growing. Okay, we're going to talk all about the highlights of spring training the last couple days, so let's not waste more time, and let's talk Dodgers baseball. Congratulations to James Outman. He was told on Thursday that he is going to be on the 26-man roster to start the season, and there has never been a prospect that I've seen that is more deserving. He hit for 2 grand slams last year. He hit for 2 cycles. They were within a week of each other. He hit almost 300. He hit 31 home runs. He had 106 RBIs. He was just a fantastic player. We always know that he plays the great defense. And I'll tell you what, he's had some great mentorship going all the way back to Sarah High School. And, the first time I got to saw him with my own eyes was in August of 2021 when he got brought up from Great Lakes to Tulsa. And it was a month or two of some of the greatest play that I had seen. And it wasn't just the numbers. It was, just the way that he approached the baseball going back to the wall. You could tell that he had a fearlessness around the wall, and that goes back to he'll tell you his football background at Sarah. He'll give a lot of credit to Coach Walsh there back at Sarah for making him tough. He was a middle linebacker there, making him strong and just making him realize, hey, you got to be a tough guy. You got to be mentally tough, and you can't be worried about pain. So he'll give Coach Walsh a lot of credit for the mental and physical toughness that he plays with because of his days there at Sarah as a middle linebacker. And then he'll give a lot of credit to Coach Giannino, who was his baseball coach at Sarah, who actually ended up going to San Francisco after he was there at Sarah and was like a mental training type coach. So, Coach Giannino, he was good friends with the Outman family, and he really helped James on the mental aspects. Being the middle linebacker is a way different mentality than baseball. In football, you just raise your energy and get mad, and that makes you better. In baseball, it actually makes things worse. So he's had great people to teach them more of the baseball mentality. And then Coach Reggie Christensen at Sac State, who was the only college coach that gave him a chance. He told me an anecdote, James did, last time I talked to him, about something Reggie told him that was just awesome. I'd never heard this. And Reggie would always tell him, hey, imagine driving at night and you've got this long distance you got to travel, and you can't see that whole distance because it's dark. The only thing you can see is 200 feet in front of you. So the only thing that you need to be concerned with at that moment is that 200 feet that you can actually see. Once you travel that 200 feet, then move on to the next 200 feet that you can see at that point, and just keep going until you reach your goal, and then look back at some point and see how far you've come. We are to that point with James Outman. He has put all this work in at Sarah. He put all the work in at Sac State. He put all the work in the minor leagues. Now you look back at that body of work, and guess what it's gotten you? It's gotten you a spot on the 26-man roster on opening day. His dad would always ask him when he was a kid, hey, how do you eat an elephant? How do you, this big, huge animal, how do you even go, and the analogy to it is the huge goal. How do you take this huge goal and how do you reach it? Well, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. How do you reach this huge goal? Just one chunk at a time. You go one day at a time. You do all your work. And then you put all of those days together, and at some point, like we said just a minute ago, you reach your end point, you get to look back at your body of work, and there you are. Now, this isn't the final goal for James Outman. This is one of the big goals, just making it to the major leagues. It's an incredibly difficult thing. We all know that. But from an odds perspective, I don't think people realize just how stacked against you the odds are to even make the major leagues. So this is a massive accomplishment. Of course, it's already done that. But to make opening day just seems a little bit different. So this is an absolutely huge milestone, but it is not the end goal for James Outman. The end goal for him is to be a very productive, everyday major league outfielder, and I have no doubt that he will do that. He is just a wonderful athlete, a wonderful young man. I've had a chance to talk to him now 3 different times. Actually 4 if you count the time I got to talk to him at One Oak there in Tulsa. Just a superior human being, a superior athlete. And boy, he is just a great baseball player. Congratulations, James Outman. Hey, guys, what do you think about him making the 26-man roster? Go ahead and leave a comment. Let's have a conversation. Congratulations also to Ryan Pepiot, another young man that I have talked to about 3 different times and enjoyed every single time I've gotten a chance to talk to him. Boy, I tell you what, he is very deserving as well. Last year he was on that taxi squad, and he was up and down. We've talked about it several different times. Talked to Mitch White and talked to a couple of other guys that have been kind of on that train where you're just going back and forth, not exactly sure where your feet are going to be at any one given moment. So, hey, congratulations to Ryan Pepiot on getting that 5th spot. You could kind of see that coming as far as the way that he was pitching this spring. He had been more efficient. His numbers had looked very good, but, going back to last year, I know that, as far as the walks and stuff, it was not as efficient as he liked, and I asked him whenever I had a chance to talk to him, hey, was becoming more efficient one of your main goals? And he absolutely said yes. And, one of the things he did was he shaped his body a little bit different so he could get his body in positions to access the zone more. And then I've talked a couple of times that changeup, hey, he's eliminated some fade to it to keep it in the strike zone just a little bit better. And, Ryan Pepiot. And then also he's adjusted his slider. I've talked about that a couple of different times to, he can make it a little bit smaller to make it look like a cutter. He can make it a little bit bigger to make it look like, more of a curveball. So he can access the zone a little bit better if he makes it smaller. So he's done a couple things to his pitch mix as far as his changeup and his slider to help him access the zone better. And then he's also shaped his body a little bit better to access the zone. And the results so far, he has 19 strikeouts in spring training to only 5 walks. That's almost a 4-to-1 ratio. I would say that's pretty good. His ERA is 3.29, and it could be lower than that. We all know one thing that Ryan Pepiot always has been able to do is get himself out of jams, and that's because, from a metrical perspective, his pitches are insane as far as if you put him on a Rapsodo or a TrackMan and you look at the horizontal break or the vertical drop to him or even the spin rates, his advanced data as far as the metrical analysis on his stuff has always been really good. So when he gets in jams, he has good swing and miss stuff. He has missed the barrel type stuff. So he's always been able to get out of jams. And, it was a little bit disappointing. His pitch count, his last time out was 75. At 74, he had 2 runners on and 2 outs, and he was taken out. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been taken out. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying it was just kind of a disappointing circumstance that he didn't get to finish his inning, because I have no doubt that he would have finished his inning scoreless, but another pitcher got brought in, I believe, is Keegan Curtis, and those 2 runs ended up scoring, so that went against his ERA. Otherwise, that thing would be down around 2 if he would have got to finish his inning, but again, got taken out at 74 innings. But ERA, 3.29. Again, 19 strikeouts, 5 walks. That is absolutely fantastic. The whip is still a little bit high at 1.39, so I think that could come down a little bit, but all the other numbers look fantastic so far for Ryan Pepiot. So, hey, congratulations, Ryan. Well-deserved in that 5th spot. Hey, take this thing by the horn. Take this bull by the horn. Run with it. Don't ever give it back. I don't ever want to see James Outman or Ryan Pepiot ever again in person unless I'm the one that gets on the plane going to L.A. to watch them there. You are looking at Marshall Kazowski, and he got brought in to put out what's fire that better known as the first inning yesterday. First inning, Arizona scored 10 runs, and Marshall Kazowski came in and put that fire out. So that was fun to watch, and I've almost talked to him on a couple of different occasions. And Marshall, he's been so just locked in on improving himself over the offseason, reshaping his slider to make it a little bit more effective for him. He's so over the top that slider, that's something that he's wanted to reshape. There is that little cutter type slider pitch at 83, and there you saw it get weak contact and finally get the Dodgers out of that 10-run first inning the other day. Okay, Kazowski, congratulations to him. He was awarded or inducted into the West Texas A&M Hall of Fame for his career as a Buffalo there in Canyon, Texas. He was the single-season all-time strikeout leader there, and Marshall, as we know, he's just a wonderful, wonderful young man. Just super motivated. Just an awesome dude to follow. And so, hey, they went ahead and inducted him into the Hall of Fame there at West Texas A&M, Canyon, Texas. I've been there very many times. I've been there to watch the play of Texas when that lightning comes down that cliff. It's really, really cool there in the Amarillo area. So congratulations, Marshall Kazowski, on the Hall of Fame induction, West Texas A&M. I know, he's excited about that, but he is super locked in. I hope to get a chance to talk to him at some point here in the near future. Super locked in on, he was in AAA all last year, so he's just one step away from the ultimate goal. That is the major leagues. And I'll tell you what, there is nobody that has worked harder and is more motivated and more locked in than Marshall Kazowski. You're looking at Wander Suero, who I'll tell you what, he had another great outing on Thursday. He went scoreless in his one inning of work. He has just a 1.17. Look at that changeup. This is what I like about him, 1.17. Let me get into his numbers a little bit before I talk about his stuff. 1.17 ERA in 7.2 innings. Of course, that's a very, very, very small sample size, but that's also in 8 appearances, and his whip is just 0.78, and all you can do is take advantage of the opportunities you're given. And like I said, how about that play by Chris Taylor? Wow, that was fantastic. Look at that pitch right there. That's the one I like, that little cutter. You saw it at 90 and 91, and then watch what he pairs that with. Look at that changeup. So you see the quick left turn of that cutter pitch, and then you see the quick right turn of the changeup. So he gives both different turns to hitters. Then he can sink it. So you saw the left turn, and then he can throw that curveball that gets the depth. Right there, you saw everything that Wander Suero has to offer. There's that play again by Taylor. He has the cutter that has the slight left turn right there that you saw. Here's another one, that little left turn to the cutter. Now watch the right turn of the changeup right there, and then here in a minute, we're going to see there's another little kind of right turn to his changeup, and then here in a minute, we're going to see the depth on his curveball. There's a good four-seam and down the zone. There's the depth on his curveball. So there's the pitch mix of Wander Suero. That's why he's been good, because he offers the left turn, the right turn, then the depth to the curveball, and he has major league experience. So this is a young man that has taken advantage of his opportunities. Again, 1.17 ERA, 7.2 innings, 8 appearances, whip just 0.78. One of my favorite young men to talk to, one of my favorite young men to watch, just one of the most polite human beings that you will ever talk to. Aaron Oceanbine, look at that split finger. That's what he has to offer, man. You know that Tony Gonsolin pitch that we're used to seeing Tony Gonsolin throw? Anytime you can throw a split finger, I actually had a chance to talk to Carson Taylor, catcher with, boy, look at that split finger. See the tumble on that thing, and it's quick, and it's, it's not like it's just a slow kind of developing pitch, and you can just kind of see it just roll in there. That split finger of Aaron Oceanbine has bite, and when I say bite, and then there's the slider that he pairs that with. When I say bite, it's late, quick movement, late and quick tumble. It's a very good pitch. So when you look at that left turn of his slider, and then, right there's the left turn. That one backed up a little bit on him. But when you look at that left turn of his slider, then he has that fastball that he can pair with that, and then that split finger that we saw here in a minute. He's throwing 92 right now, but I can tell you when he gets heated up, there's the slider. He didn't throw that one for a strike. He pulled it a touch, but I can tell you, being a reliever, as he gets heated up, and of course he battled a lot of injury last year, and so that was frustrating for him because he got off to like a terrific start. He had 12 or 13 outings in a row. There's that good slider. He had 12 or 13 outings in a row to begin the year in Tulsa, and then there's that good, look at that ride and run to that fastball. And then he went to Oklahoma City. Then he started having some, boy, look at the tumble on that split finger. He had some injury issues, and then, had a couple of outings that went sideways on him. So this is a young man that can reach 94, 95, possibly 96 whenever he is fully healthy. That nice little slider there, backed up on him just a touch. Okay, so when you're throwing 94, 95, like he's capable of, hitting 96 every now and then, and you have the tumble and the big time bite on that split finger pitch, and then a good shaped slider like that, very difficult for a hitter to see because you're only ever facing hitters one time an evening. And so, if you only get to see it, that split finger right there one time, per evening, that makes it very tough. So Aaron Oceanbine, keep your eye on him. He's very competitive. He loves baseball. He eats, drinks, and sleeps baseball, and he is very, very good, and he's already at the AAA level. This guy's going to, maybe this year, buy for Major League time. He's throwing to Hunter Producia, who's had just a wonderful spring training. Because, again, I don't want to say novelty because that makes it sound like you're not as talented as you are, but it is kind of a novelty of the split finger. Anybody who has that has something to offer that other people don't, so keep your eye on Aaron Oceanbine. This is Mitchell Terransky right here, and I'll tell you what, if you need guys that either have been injured like he has been the last couple of years, or if maybe guys the Dodgers just picked up that, kind of like Jake Pilarski, who's been an independent ball the last couple of years, and the Dodgers are putting in their lab to try to fix. If you need guys like that, head over to Dodgers 2080 because Tim Rogers was at spring training. He got to see these guys quite a bit. In our Dodgers Prospects podcast just a couple of weeks ago, Tim talked about this left-hander right here, Mitchell Terransky, who was drafted in 2019 and has just been on the shelf, fought injury after injury. The last couple of years, he has not been able to pitch. Look at that sweeping slider, though. That thing started up and in to the left-hander there, and then he matches that. Look at how he tunneled those two pitches. Okay, that fastball was up and in, and then he started that slider up and in as well, but then it broke down and away and stayed a strike. So if he can continue to tunnel like that, if he can throw that fastball up and into lefties right there, that pitch, and then he can start the slider in that same spot. There's another up and into lefties. If he can start that slider in the same spot, and then it just breaks down into the zone, he's going to get that pitch right there. That's more of a cutter type pitch. So looks to me like he's throwing that four seam. Then he's also throwing a slider and a cutter. The cutter gets a little bit more horizontal, and then you can see he can throw that slider to right-handers as kind of a get-me-over, and then he has that four seam up in the zone. And then he can also, boy, look at that four seam. Then he can also throw that slider to the back foot. So I love the tunneling effect of Mitchell Terransky, how he starts that thing up and in, and then right there, he's able to start off that same tunnel with the slider, but then it breaks away, and just look at the professional hitter you saw there, just couldn't do anything with it. He pulled off of it. So Mitchell Terransky, pretty nasty stuff. We'll see if he can stay. There's another sweeping slider that started. Why does a professional hitter, why does he even swing at that? It's out of the zone. Well, because it started in the exact same spot as fastball did, and the fastball is a strike, so by the time you commit, it looks like it's going to be in that same location the fastball is, then it just falls off the table, and by the time you realize it's not going to be a strike, it's too late, and he gets swing and miss. Very, very, very impressive for many, many different reasons for Mitchell Terransky. Hopefully he can stay healthy. If he can, this dude has great stuff. I've said it a couple times, but Max Muncy has that look in his eye like he is super, super, super motivated. I've also said a couple of times, I have followed him since his career at Keller High School, then at Baylor. Got to see him several times while he was at college, both in Stillwater and then at the Bricktown Ballpark in the Big 12 tournament. And I can tell you, I've said this many times, when the Dodgers got him, it was like, oh, that's Max Muncy, the dude that can absolutely stroke. I was so pumped about it. And I tell you what, he has had just a great career with Los Angeles. He had the injury there at the end of 2021 that affected him for about the first 4 months of last year, but his last 2 months last year were fantastic. He's having a very good spring. This home run he hit yesterday on Friday actually got the scoring started for the Dodgers. This was his second home run of spring training. He is healthy, and I tell you what, when Max Muncy is hitting home runs over the center field wall, that tells you his timing is good. That tells you he's staying on the ball, and that tells you he is hitting through the ball. And when Max Muncy does those things, he is one of the best hitters in the game of baseball, and he's primed to have a bounce-back year, in my opinion. He's hitting .282 so far in spring, OPS .942. You are seeing JD Martinez's second home run of his spring, and this is great to see because, I've mentioned this a couple times. There's 4 different spring trainings that you can go back to, multiple spring trainings where just the numbers weren't very good. He is historically a slow starter, so those people who are, hey, JD Martinez, what's wrong with him? He's not hitting, all that kind of stuff. It's not a big deal, okay? This guy, JD Martinez, has historically been a slow starter. He said it himself to Kirsten Watson in a couple of his interviews. So although he is hitting just .213 in spring training so far, not a concern. This, like I said with veterans, right? Many different times, Clayton Kershaw and all these veteran hitters, you're not looking for numbers, you're looking for signs. Like Max Muncy, when JD Martinez is hitting home runs over the center field wall and hitting them dead center like that, that tells you his timing is starting to become very good. He's starting to stay on the ball, and he's starting to hit all the way through the ball. So you don't look at numbers, you look at signs when you're talking about veterans that have a track record like JD Martinez. Look how deep he let that get the ball. Look how he stayed through that ball. Look how he stayed connected through that ball. And because of that, he hits a home run dead center. So that's the sign you're looking for JD Martinez to say, hey, the timing is starting to get good. The body is starting to be connected. The whole swing is starting to be connected again, to connect with that great timing. And when all that happens, we know how great of a hitter JD Martinez is. And I'll tell you what, reuniting with Robert Van Scoyoc, very exciting. So great sign for JD Martinez. Not that he just hit a home run, but how he hit it into dead center. This is an entire bat from L.A. native Brandon Lewis, who, he led the Dodgers minor league system in home runs per at bat in 2021. So this young man has a world of power, has a lot of Bob Horner in his game when you watch him play one of the corner infield positions, either third base or first base. As a matter of fact, if you go to my YouTube feed, you're on it right now if you're watching this video, I actually have, a side-by-side of Bob Horner and Brandon Lewis and their swings, and they're almost identical. So that's who I compare Brandon Lewis to. Obviously, I'm not saying he's going to have a Bob Horner career. He hasn't even made it past Double-A yet. I'm just saying he has that type of, if you wanted to compare the type of game he has, that's the type of game Brandon Lewis has. He's become a good defender at third base. He's always been very good around the first base bag. He has a world of power, and I'll tell you one thing, that if Brandon Lewis becomes an effective Major League Baseball player, one of the things that's really going to help him is that although he does hit a lot of home runs and he has a lot of power, he's also very good at shooting the ball to right field right there, see? So if he's looking with 2 strikes for a pitch away and you jam him inside, much like we see Miguel Vargas do a lot, he is skilled enough as a hitter, as we just saw, to pull the hands inside. On that one, he was looking for a pitch on the outer half because there was 2 strikes, but yet he got jammed inside. But he's talented enough to pull the hands inside and shoot the ball the other way, inside out that ball. And when you have a slugger that, they can look middle in early in the count for their pull side power, then late in the count, they're skilled enough to shoot the ball the other way on a pitch on the outer half, and then take it the next level and be skilled enough to inside out a pitch. If they get an inside pitch, that's a guy that has a lot of skill. That's a very skilled hitter. That's one of the reasons why the Dodgers love Miguel Vargas. Brandon Lewis can do all those things as well. So I'm super excited to watch him again this year. Probably going to start in Tulsa again. We'll see. Who knows? But hopefully he'll get a chance at Oklahoma City and maybe further beyond that. Brandon Lewis, a great young slugger. Okay, sit down, get some popcorn, because on your screen is Drew Avents. And as you know, if you follow Dodgers Daily much, I can talk Drew Avents all day long. I just absolutely love the way this young man, the Southeastern Louisiana Lion, I just love, from Alabaster, Alabama originally, love the way this guy plays. I tell you what, he had 40 stolen bases. He only got caught stealing last year like 7 times. Kind of a funny story. Look at that base hit. And watch, he's going to try to stretch this into a double. He gets caught. He does not. He actually gets out at second base. That's not significant, though. The fact is he busts out of the box. And then just, that little hit right there to right center, which is like 12 feet away from second base, right? He still tried to stretch it into a double. So, hey, let's say that it's like June or July and you have outfielders that are kind of taking things for granted. That's going to end up being a double at some time, but that's not, him getting out's not the issue there. It's the constant hustle, and the more at bats that Avents gets on the main field and people get to get eyes on him, he has that game that he's not that guy that stands up there and hits 500-foot home runs. He's not the guy that like an Andy Paez maybe, that's going to put his butt on the outfield wall and throw a frozen rope all the way to third base in the air and impress you that way. He's not the big physically Babe Ruth looking guy like James Outman. He doesn't have any of that. So when you watch him, just one time, if you only watch Drew Avents one time, you never leave going, oh, wow, that Avents kid. What you have to do with him is you have to consistently, over a couple of months, watch him every day and watch all the little things to truly understand the value that he brings to a baseball team and just how good he is. So, Drew Avents, I love this young man. He had the 53-game hitting streak, which is the longest in the PCL in the last 3 years. He had the 40 stolen bases. Just a wonderful young player. Drew Avents, again, originally out of Alabaster, Alabama, and the Southeastern line. I know he is so proud to be from that area. So, Drew Avents, love this young man. I loved watching him get this hit. Loved watching him try to stretch it into a double yesterday. There goes Brandon Lewis to third base. So, hey, there you go, Drew Avents. You're seeing Caleb Ferguson from his outing on Friday, and I'll tell you what, he's had 2 Tommy John surgeries. I love stories of resilience. I could get into some of the things that I have had to do in my life that have had me overcome several different situations that had odds to them, that has made me really admire young men that understand the resiliency, that understand, hey, life isn't always fair, and sometimes you just got to pull your bootstraps up and you got to get to work, and you can't feel sorry for yourself, and you just got to go do it. And there's another thing about it is that there's no magic formula. You talk to these guys and you're wanting to hear them come up with some kind of magic formula that you could plug in and become a major leaguer. There isn't one. The only formula there is hard work and just everyday consistency of putting that work in. So I love stories of resiliency. Caleb Ferguson certainly is that. He has had 2 different Tommy Johns. He had the great, he was very successful 2020 when he went down. I believe it was 2020 with his last Tommy John. Don't quote me on that. I'm not I'm terrible with actual dates, so don't quote me on that. But hey, 2 different Tommy Johns. It looks to me like he has all the feels back. I talk about this all the time with Tommy John surgery. Coming back, it's not that you have pain in your arm when you come back throwing. It's just that you can't feel anything. Caleb said the first time he picked up the baseball in Oklahoma City, there was a time last year he couldn't even feel the ball in his hand. Said it felt great to be on the mound again, and there was no pain. He just couldn't feel anything. So the thing about Tommy John, Dustin May, Noah Syndergaard, Caleb Ferguson, all these guys that have Tommy John, it's just a long process for them to throw enough to get all the feels back. And it looks to me like Caleb Ferguson has all those feels back. We'll see. Who knows? But, boy, I'll tell you what, he is a very, very, very talented left-hander. He throws hard. He has good stuff. That good sweeping slider right there. So, great story of resilience, Caleb Ferguson. We'll see if he can continue to have all the feels, see a pitch like that. If you don't have Tommy John, more than likely you have a better feel and you don't have quite as bad of misses. That's kind of what happens to guys who don't totally have all their feels back after that one right there. Don't totally have all the feels back after Tommy John. It's just a little bit harder. You have to concentrate a little bit more. You can't quite release it with the same kind of conviction that you did before. We'll see if that continues to improve for Caleb Ferguson. Right now, he looks good. and I love his story of resilience. So, hey, go Caleb Ferguson, huh? Okay, do yourself a favor. Go to one of my social medias, either Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Watch this entire reel, and watch this last pitch. We might get to it here. There's that good four-seam with Carey at the bottom of the zone. Watch this changeup now. He did have a couple changeups. He didn't quite land as well as he'd like, but you saw that four-seam to what the Dodgers call the four slot down and away to a righty, which would be to the glove side and the low in the zone. Then you saw the four-seam up and into the righty. There's a changeup. He didn't quite land. I want to show you, and there's a little slider he didn't quite land. So having a few control issues, but look at that changeup that lands in the zone, and then watch the changeup. He ends. There's that four-seam again. Look at that changeup to end the inning. I'll tell you what, if he can hit that four slot with the four-seam, and then he can hit up and in with the four-seam, and then continue to throw. We saw him throw a get-me-over changeup. There's that four-slot fastball that I'm talking about, low and away to righties. Then there's the up and in fastball. So, you're changing eye levels. There's another up and in. You're changing eye levels, which makes it very difficult on hitters. And then if he can, we saw the get-me-over changeup, and then we also saw the really dirty, nasty changeup. Of course, that one fluttered away from him to actually get the swing and miss. Watch this get-me-over changeup here in just a second, right there. So we've seen the fastball low and away. We've seen the fastball up and in. There's that four slot low and away. Of course, it's down and in. Now we've to a lefty. There is that put away changeup. So we saw get me over changeup, put away changeup. We've seen the four slot fastball down and away to a righty right there, and we've seen the up and in fastball as well. So you've seen the combination right there that's going to make Shelby Miller successful. If he becomes successful again, it's not a matter of stuff. It's a matter of execution. It is there for him. He's executed at times this spring, and like we see right there, sometimes he hasn't executed. We saw a changeup and slider back-to-back where he didn't execute, but then he executes perfectly on two changeups in a row and then a four-slot fastball. So there you go. It's all about execution for Shelby Miller. So there you have it. There's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I liked watching Max Muncy and JD Martinez going deep again. I like watching Miguel Vargas. I love talking about Drew Avents, Brandon Lewis, James Outman, and Ryan Pepiot at any time. And I love, at least at times, the execution of Shelby Miller with that four-seam fastball, the changeup, and the slider. And then I love the resilience story, the story of resilience of Caleb Ferguson. So this was a fun show for me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you tune in to our next edition of Dodgers Daily as we recap the latest action in Dodgers baseball. Hey, before we get out of here, just one more reminder. If you like this video and if you like this kind of content, go ahead and click that like button, leave a comment, tell all your friends about Dodgers Daily, and become a subscriber. Then after you subscribe, turn on your notifications. Click that notification bell. That way, every time Dodgers Daily releases a new video, you will be notified. You won't miss a thing, and Dodgers Daily can keep growing. And if we keep growing, we can keep providing you content like this in the future. Okay, I want to say, as always, thanks for tuning in, and go Dodgers.